Welcome to the Disabled Podcast, starring your host, Christian Reitz.
Hot dog! Let's go!
Welcome to the Disabled Podcast, the show that incorporates disabilities with the magic of Disney. Welcome to episode number 7, entitled Magic Outside of the Parks. Be sure to use our hashtag the Disabled Podcast when sharing this podcast to all social media platforms. Again, that's hashtag the Disabled Podcast when sharing this podcast to all social media platforms. And now, here is your host, Christian Reitz. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Disabled Podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to talk a lot about magic that you can actually do outside of the theme parks. Did you know that you can actually do magic and you can get the same Disney experience by not going to a theme park? Well, today we're going to talk all about some of the things that you can do, not everything you can do, but a few of the things that you can do outside of the 4 Disney theme parks at Walt Disney World. But before we begin, I want to let you guys know that we have brand new podcast merchandise available, just released as of today, as of this recording. You can get brand new podcast merch, so many new products coming out every week. Yeah, try to get at least 2, maybe 3 products per week, depending on scheduling and all that stuff. But there are brand new products available, so go check out the Disabled Podcast merchandise store, available in the description box below of Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, whatever streaming platform you're listening to or watching right now. Go check out the description box below. So now let's get on with today's episode. So first, let's talk about Disney Springs. Now, for all of you OG Walt Disney World fans that remember the previous days, before it was Disney Springs, it was actually Downtown Disney. Not to be confused with Downtown Disney, that's actually at Disneyland in California, which, by the way, we will be doing an episode on that here, hopefully in a few weeks. I'll be hopefully doing an interview of somebody that's from my family that has actually gone to Disneyland and been there so many times, because I personally have not been there, but that's beside the point. So one of the things that you need to know about Disney Springs is that this is basically, for those of you that are first-timers, this is your shopping district. This is where you can find all the merchandise that you cannot find in the parks. So a lot of the stores that are in there are your normal, your Gap stores, your Old Navy stores, Michael Kors, a lot of those places that you know from any other shopping mall that you go to in America or any other outlet. But there's a few things that are different in Disney Springs when it comes to shopping. For instance, the World of Disney store. Now, the World of Disney store has actually been affectionately named as Disney World's. It's really the largest Disney store in the world. And that, again, is basically the place where you're going to get a lot of the merchandise that you cannot get when coming off of a ride in any of the theme parks. So when coming off a ride in one of the theme parks, they have the little gift shops. And a lot of those things, it's really just a small gift shop. So it's not this, big, massive store for gift shop. So World of Disney is where you're going to find the exclusive merchandise and also some classic stuff that you can't find anywhere else. But you can also go online and use the My Disney Experience app, which, by the way, if you do not have the My Disney Experience app, I highly encourage all of you to get that app, because that's where you can actually do dining reservations for some of the restaurants as well, which I will talk about here in just one moment. But you can also check out merchandise online, and actually, one of the things that is really cool is that when you go to World of Disney, you can actually buy what you have online. You can scan the QR code, buy it online, and you can actually check out without having to visit one of the registers up front. Because again, it is the world's largest Disney store, so that place gets pretty packed. So you want to make sure that you have that app, because that will help you navigate all of Disney Springs and also help you out with some checkouts and also dining reservations. So now let's talk about dining reservations at Disney Springs. When talking about dining reservations in Disney Springs, a lot of the restaurants in Disney Springs are actually only on Disney property, which means they're not actually owned by Disney. So you'll need to have reservations for a lot of them, like, for instance, Rainforest Cafe. Again, Rainforest Cafe is in Animal Kingdom as well as Disney Springs. Now, that is not owned by Disney, so you'll have to go to the Rainforest Cafe website to book your reservations for that specific restaurant. There are other restaurants as well, like Chef Art Smith's Homecoming, um, and a few other Italian places, maybe some Mexican. Again, that's for really for everybody. There's something for everybody at Disney Springs. Now there are also quick service restaurants and kiosks. Now, quick service restaurant and kiosks are basically places where you don't have to have a reservation. You just go up to the window and you just kind of order like a normal quick service restaurant, like a McDonald's or a Chick-fil-A. So my family's favorite restaurant or quick service place is a place called Earl of Sandwich. That is a place where you can get lots of sandwiches. Our favorite, personally, if you want a recommendation, is the holiday turkey. So that's like Thanksgiving all wrapped into a sandwich. It's one of the best ones we've had. Now, when it comes to different kiosks and booths and all that, one of my personal favorites that I actually just discovered on my last trip is this place called Yasaki. Now, this is a Japanese place. They have so many sake bowls and all that. You can do customizable stuff. But one of my favorite things to do there, or that I got there last time, was I got this Japanese fried chicken called karaage. And I know I'm probably butchering the name, so I apologize to all my Japanese friends. I'm so sorry about that. If I am butchering that, please let me know in the comments below. Um, but that was one of my favorite things. Again, that's a little kiosk. So where you can find that is when you're going through the orange parking lot. When you walk down the stairs or you go down the elevator from the orange parking lot, it's right across from the AMC and also right across from another place that I love, which is the Coca-Cola store. So again, that's just a small kiosk, just a walk kiosk. It's very, very tiny. Honestly, it's really easy to miss. So this is just a few of the places when it comes to dining that my family and I love to go to. So there's just a few recommendations that I would give to you guys when visiting Disney Springs. And so now let's talk about resort hopping as the next one on our list. Now, you're probably thinking, Christian, what in the world is resort hopping? Well, you've heard of this thing called park hopping, right? Park hopping, as you would know, or maybe you don't know, is basically where you can jump from park to park to park to park on the same day. Um, Now, back in the COVID pandemic, back in 2020, when everything shut down, you could only do it up in the really when resort hopping came back, or sorry, park hopping came back. You could only do it at 2 o'clock, and after 2 o'clock, you could park hop to whatever you want, to whatever park you wanted to for the rest of the day, for the rest of the evening. Um, but resort hopping is a little bit different. Now, resort hopping has come back in recent probably the last year and a half. Now, resort hopping is basically the same idea. So all Disney resorts, did you know that you can actually visit them for free? It's true. You can actually visit resorts for free. So resort hopping, all that is basically going from resort to resort to resort to resort to resort and so on. And that's one of my favorite things to do is resort hopping. I just recently did this for the first time ever on my trip back in January of this year, and it was just so cool to go from three different resorts. Now there are a few things you need to know when doing resort hopping. One of the things you need to know is that it used to be way back in the day that you could just drive in, say tell the security at the entrance of every resort, hey, I'm just here to do some shopping around the resort, and then they would let you in for parking. This time it's a little bit different. This time, in order to actually do it, to actually get the parking, you actually have to have a dining reservation at a specific restaurant within your resort in order to experience what the resort has to offer. And same thing with pools as well. Now, the pool hopping, as people have called it lately, pool hopping is actually no longer allowed, so you can't go from resort to resort to resort and pool hop, and swim in all the different pools. You actually have to be staying at that resort in order to use that pool. So I'm sorry for all you pool hopping people, that is no longer allowed as of recently. I actually just learned that a couple days ago. But again, resort hopping has been changed a little differently. But again, I did tell you that security, they'll usually ask you if you have a dining reservation in order for you to, or actually if you're staying there, whether you're staying there or having a dining reservation, they will actually ask you those questions of whether or not you're staying there or having a dining reservation. But did you know that there's actually a little secret way of visiting the resorts without having to go through security? That's right. in episode 3 of season 1, I believe it was episode 3 or episode 4. Actually, it was episode 3. I talked a little bit about Disney transportation. Now, Disney transportation is the best. So you have a few different transportation options, or a few different transportation options. You've got your buses, you've got your Skyliner, you've got boats, or some of them actually even have trails that you can walk on to go from one resort to the next. Now, or even one I forgot to mention is you also have the monorail. Now you're saying, Christian, the monorail is for the Magic Kingdom and for Epcot. Why would the monorail go to the resorts? Well, that's what I used to think until I went to this past trip in January for my birthday trip. One of the cool things that I loved about the resort hopping is, and I actually did the monorail resort hopping. Um, and that was really cool to ride the monorail. You can ride the monorail as many times as you want. You can stay on, or you can get off at three different resorts. Now, the three different resorts for the monorail are the Contemporary Resort, the Grand Floridian, and the Polynesian. So it always starts off at the Contemporary. Now, I have not stayed at the Contemporary personally, but I've been to places like Chef Mickey in the Contemporary Resort. So again, taking advantage of that resort hopping, um, and of the transportation options within resort hopping has been a lifesaver, and it's really easy way to get to the theme parks now, or to the resorts. But again, you will have security checkpoints at certain places. So for me, it was the Contemporary. Then we went to the Polynesian Resort. Now, the Polynesian Resort, I got to actually go visit Captain Cook's, which is another quick service restaurant in the Polynesian Resort. It's actually their only quick service restaurant, as well as they have a Pineapple Lanai, which is a Dole Whip restaurant, or like a Dole Whip kiosk. Um, and they also have a tiki bar there as well. I don't remember the name of the tiki bar, but if you do remember the name of the tiki bar, please let me know in the comments down below. So one of the things I loved at Captain Cook's was I got these amazing pulled pork nachos. Now these nachos, y'all, they had cheese on top, pulled pork, and even pineapple on top. And they were on top of chips. They're like house-made chips. And they were just some of the best things it's one of the best actually meals I've ever tried at a resort ever, especially for my first time doing resort hopping. Um, that was just one of my favorite places to really eat at. And when I go my next trip to Disney World, whenever that is, I'm definitely going to be making another stop at the Polynesian Resort to get that. I also, and I bet you guys didn't know that this was possible, a lot of times in Disney, you can get things that are interesting, interesting types of food. Now, when it comes to interesting type of food, what do I mean by that? There's some snacks that are interesting, like, for instance, let's say like the Magic Kingdom, like Magic Kingdom popcorn. That's something that's new because you can get all these different flavors and toppings, like M&Ms and white chocolate topping, or dark chocolate, or milk chocolate. Well, in the Polynesian Resort, you can actually get chocolate covered bacon, which is one of my favorite things in the world, which will be on the second floor of the Polynesian Resort. Right before you get to the pools, there's going to be a little kiosk right off to your right hand side. Again, it's chocolate covered bacon. I mean, why would you not want chocolate covered bacon? But anyway, then it would go to the Grand Floridian Resort. Now, the Grand Floridian Resort is probably one of the most elegant. Once you get off the monorail for your next resort, it's one of the most elegant resorts on the planet. It's really beautiful. Um, Not very much in terms of shopping for families per se, but there is a great view of the castle if you walk out the back of the Grand Floridian, so you get a shot of the castle. You can even go sit out in these places. They have actually designated places in all of these resorts that you can watch the fireworks at night, which is completely free to do so. So now let's talk about the last element of this episode, and that is mini golf. Did you know you could actually do mini golfing at the Walt Disney World Resort? Yeah, it's true. You can actually do mini golf at the Walt Disney World Resort. You can also even go golfing on a full golfing range at the Walt Disney World Resort. Now, there is one golf course that is right next to Typhoon Lagoon. They actually use the same parking lot as Typhoon Lagoon, the water park. Um, and it's called Winter Summerland. Now, this is a really cool type of mini golf experience. And for my wheelchair friends, because obviously this is the Disabled podcast, the show that incorporates the disabilities with the magic of Disney. yes, it is accessible for my wheelchair friends. So if you were in a wheelchair, this is the experience you definitely want to try. Now, it is split up into a few different areas. Um, you have some holes. They have actually two different sections. They have a winter version, and a summer version. Now, I don't really know some of the prices, um, again, because I did not do my research on this when I should have been doing research on this. But again, a lot of my research that I do is on the Disney website. So if you want to learn more about what all of that is, you can always go check out the Disney website. But I promise you, from what I've heard, that this mini golf experience, and from videos I've seen online, there are some live streamers online, some Disney parks live streamers, that have personally gone and actually done these experiences, like the Winter Summerland and Disney Springs and all these other places. They've actually gone and do these and done these experiences. So it's actually really really cool to see some of the different holes you can do. And there's about, I think about maybe 12 holes or 14 holes per section. And again, it's just a fun way to beat the heat. I mean, well, granted, it's outside, but also it's a great way to actually take a break from the theme parks, though, which I do want to mention that as well. If you do have a break day, a lot of what I'm talking about today in this episode is great for a break day. So you want to make sure that you do schedule those break days, so that way you can do things like the Winter Summerland Golf Course, Disney Springs, and resort hopping. So make sure you get that break day, or let's say you want to do half theme park, half Winter Summerland Golf Course. You can also do that as well. Now, pricing, again, is located on the Disney website, so you want to make sure you go to disney.go.com and check out all the prices for all of that stuff. Well, guys, that's all the time I have for this week's episode of the Disable Podcast. Again, like I said right at the beginning of this episode, be sure to go check out the new podcast merch for the Disable Podcast, which the link is in the description box below of all of our streaming platforms. And be sure to also go like the Facebook page for the Disable Podcast, again, located in the description box below of all of our streaming platforms. Well, that's all the time I have, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see ya
Real soon.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Disable Podcast. Don't forget to use the hashtag the Disable Podcast when sharing this podcast to all of your social media platforms. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and we'll see ya real soon.